Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rumbi and Census. Good evening to everyone. And I just want to say to you, shout out and thank you so much for passing by. If you're new here, I'm asking you to subscribe to the channel. But if you're my regulars, thank you so much for sticking around because we're going to have a bit of fun. So I'm going to be connecting to Dr. Ibbo Mandaza on a Twitter space that I think is so important. All of us, we can be educated. So it's Zimbabwean elections aftermath with Dr. Ibbo Mandaza. And this space was held by Revolutionary and Messi this afternoon. So I'm going to be connecting live so you guys can listen to what are some of the things that Dr. Ibbo Mandaza is saying. So welcome to everybody to the YouTube channel. Come on. So I hope you guys are doing absolutely great. So I'm just going to connect you quickly so you guys can listen, because I also need to listen to the same space. To get the mic, you guys can share the space so we can get a few more people involved. Hi, Dr. Mandaza.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you so much for joining us today.
You know, speaking to you?
Yeah, good.
Pardon?
It's Tendai.
Tendai?
Yeah, I'm the one who was speaking with.
One of Tendai's.
But yeah, no, not a problem. So thank you so much. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to go through like our program, and then if we've got a bit of time, we can then take a few questions from the crowd. I mean, time admitting. So, I mean, when you're ready to start talk, I mean, you can say hi to everyone. Please just drop your location, we'll send you a shout out as we connect into the meeting quickly, please.
No, that's it. Yeah.
No, that's fine. When you're ready to go, just give us a sign.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, good evening, everybody. My fellow country persons. Thank you for inviting me to this discussion. Someone called it a quagmire. I think it's worse than a quagmire, what we're in now. But also it offers the best opportunity possible under the circumstances, which is really to try and capitalize on the SADC Observer Mission report, and by putting pressure on SADC to do the obvious, especially given now that we have South Africa ipso facto supporting or recognizing the election outcome, and that will intuitively have put the countries, especially the 14 other or the 12 other countries which did not come to the inauguration, under pressure, not to mention the immense pressure against Zambia right now, and therefore the need to buttress our opposition, buttress the petition, which we hope to deliver to Zambia next week, Tuesday or Wednesday next week. Yeah. Do you heard me?
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much, Doctor. So, I mean, just to start off, I mean, what are your overall views on the I don't know if you want to call it an election, the sham? What are your views then?
Well, the election was as much a sham as previous ones. And I say previous ones, 2013 in particular, which people seem to have forgotten, that was funded by, it was sponsored by Ncube, if you remember, at a cost of $10 million.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, but Zimbabwe, I hear no one mentioning that. It's public knowledge that $10 million was spent on Ncube to produce a fraudulent outcome in 2013. As pronounced a verdict on the elections, but we who were in Harare on that day witnessed what amounted to be a more than just fraud. In particular, the extent to which the voters many voters may have been disenfranchised in Harare alone by the late arrival of the ballot papers. And that was, it's not an accident, it was by design. Because Harare alone is as 1/3 of the total voters in the country. And an election is won or lost in Harare alone, one might say. Because if you're able to garner 1.3 million voters out of Harare, you have won the election. And we believe from the evidence we're getting from various factors, people were inside helping in the rigging, that the rigging was done primarily in the very strongholds of the opposition. So, as ironical as it appears, the rigging was done precisely in those constituencies in which the CCC won. And it was done simply on the computer, in the Excel sheet. So, for example, Tendai gets 30,000 votes, right? They will take 10,000 and put that to Emmerson's box, and Tendai wins by 20,000 or by 5,000 votes. So, in fact, in those very areas, as I said, where CCC won around Harare and high density type of constituencies, is precisely where the rigging was done most.
Thank you so much, Doc. I mean, so from your perspective, I mean, the international community's reaction, and has it been satisfactory? And what do you think? How do you think that actually impacts on our democracy?
Well, first and foremost, the other reports, although less blunt than the SADC report, were equally condemned the election on the basis of the process alone towards the election. I mean, I spoke to the AU chaps, and they didn't want to deal with the happenings of the election day itself. They confined themselves to pre-election issues, in particular the role of FAS. And Goodluck Jonathan said, well, FAS should be dismissed as a criminal gang. He said that. Indeed, the role of FAS cannot be ignored. And I think that the opposition, and especially yourselves as commentators, you have been very lax in trying to highlight the extent to which the election was irregular. You know, you have allowed the state to deal with the persona of Mumba rather than the contents of the report. And I thought that such discussions as we're having would attend to that. In other words, I don't depend on the Mumba report to make the conclusions I'm making. I depend, my views are based on a careful observation of the electoral process over the last year, including 12 webinars which were held, which were an audit of the electoral process in Zimbabwe, which concluded that the electoral process was faulty, was seriously flawed, to the point where we thought that it was futile for the opposition to go into the election. And indeed, in our view, we recommended that the opposition should call off the election in protest, and in that way draw attention to the kind of irregularities that we saw already, and indeed it's possible that the ZANU-PF would have gone ahead with the elections regardless, but at least the level of legitimacy would have been so high that observer missions themselves would have concluded that there was no election. Anyway, Shamisa thinks that it was just as well they went for elections because they have to expose the irregularities in the manner they were exposed. I'm not so sure. But let's get down to the point of this discussion. One is to highlight that the election was a sham, and secondly, what's to be done about it.
Thank you so much, Tok. I mean, we've seen the EU now. They've now started. Revoked the funding. What are your thoughts and the impact of the EU revoking the funding?
Yeah, because they've had to follow the SADC report and their own report. You see, the SADC report puts everyone on the spot. In other words, if the Africans themselves are declaring that this election to be a nullity, a sham, how can we be party to it? Not to mention the fact that the funding of ZEC by the EU was from the outset very controversial. It's interesting that the state actors like Charamba and Jonathan Moyo are saying that funding should never have been accepted in the first instance because independent commissions such as they are should not receive funding from outside. Anyway, the point is there were $5 million was allocated to ZEC specifically. And as I said, it was very controversial because a number of member states of EU were opposed to that. But it's significant, and I'm surprised that yourselves have not highlighted that. That it in fact, it reinforces the view that the election was a sham. They withdraw the funding.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doc. I mean, we can only try. I mean, we have tried other means, but like you said, I mean, our first proposal was that the election not even be a protest before the election, the delimitation challenge and the voters' rule challenge. But like you said, people that are going to the election would expose the system rather than them boycotting. So a lot of things have been suggested, and we have actually tried to suggest a few things, but as you said, they've not been listened to. So, I mean, going forward, I mean, can the election results be voided now that we've had an inauguration, we've had a parliament, we've had all the MPs sworn in, councillors sworn in? Is there any chance of this election result being voided?
I think that two comments here. One is that the under normal circumstances, a negative report from SADC and other observer, but particularly SADC, would have meant that the Mnangagwa would have gone slow, not only on inauguration, but also in appointing a government. And one is compelled to conclude that the only reason why he did that, instead of waiting for the SADC to consider and discuss the report, was in effect to preempt such a discussion on the part of SADC. And secondly, there's a lot of been talk about Shamisa not having gone, or Triple C not having gone to court. The point is clearly, if the expectation by the state, by Emmerson Mnangagwa and his team, was that Shamisa would rush to the courts, as they did in 2018, and that then the court would dismiss the application inevitably, and at that stage it would be difficult for SADC to raise the issue of the elections. whatever reasons the Triple C did not go to court, I think it has positive ramifications in that now SADC has to discuss that report. And you can feel the panic in Harare around it. And indeed, we have to get SADC to act on their own report.
Right. So, given a scenario, Dr. Mandaza, that the election result is now voided, what happens to the MPs that have already been sworn in? Everything that's happening now around Parliament and everything, what then does happen? Do we get a reversal? Do we have a new election? And where does the funding come from? Because like right now we've seen the EU pulling out, and a lot more people are now not interested in what's happening in Zimbabwe, other than us as activists and other people that are around SADC. What then happens? Who will fund? If we had to go to an election, who will fund the election first? And what happens to these MPs that have already been sworn in?
The idea of a rerun is unrealistic in the circumstances. Not only because of the costs thereof, but also to the extent that the Triple C MPs were quite happy to be sworn in. We had a situation where they are crying foul about the election, which is null and void, and yet the MPs and councillors are happily taking office. So that it's a reality you cannot avoid. They are now members of parliament, and therefore any solution, any arrangement that has been made around on the back of a bad election, we cannot ignore that reality. So in my view, given our proposal that a kind of transitional government would have to include some MPs on both sides of the aisle. And I think one has to make a clear distinction between the parliamentary vote and the presidential vote. Even if, as has been said by everybody, the election should have been declared null and void. But here was the reality. People have been sworn in. As you know, politics in Zimbabwe is also our livelihood. And even if Shamisa had declared, as he did, that the elections are null and void, must have a rerun, is caught in a massive contradiction, because his MPs have gone ahead and been sworn in. If they'd refused to be sworn in, that would have strengthened his position, but I don't think that he's as strong as under the circumstances. But I think is immensely weak, even in terms of negotiating with his negotiating hand is weakened immensely. And you can see that he's in a dilemma of sorts.
All right, thank you for that. Going on to SADC, do you think how are they going to remedy the situation? Because the way it's gone, like you said, it's gone too far. We've got MPs sworn in, and this is on the back of a sham election, but they have actually accepted to be sworn in. How do we remedy the situation?
No, I mean, you can see that HARARE and Mnangagwa in particular have taken a strong position. I just read something this morning that he said doesn't give a damn about those who are saying the elections were a sham. Doesn't give a damn about the SADC report.
Thank you.
And as far as he's concerned, things are as normal as ever. Well, what else could he say? The point is this: in terms of SADC protocols and in terms of the organ, SADC has to act, has to discuss that report. They will try and evade it, as some of them are already indicating, but
All right, so that's Dr. Ibbo Mandaza there speaking on one of the Twitter space. he is talking about the aftermath, of Zimbabwean election. So it's interesting. It's very interesting.
I'm hoping that you're well.
Push along the line. We were there for 8 months. In 2008, it has positive ramifications in that now SADC has to discuss that report. And you can feel the panic in Harare around it. And indeed, it's one in. We had a situation where they are crying for the next elections. Not in 2028, but maybe sooner, maybe in 2 years' time.
Thank you so much. If we look at like the transitional government option, first and foremost, does the Constitution allow? I know it's quite redundant to talk about the Constitution now when we're just coming off a rigged election, but does the Constitution allow us to actually even exercise that option of a transitional government?
Yes, of course. In the same way that we had the transitional government arrangement in at Lancaster House. Remember when we were too young? I was at Lancaster, but your General, Mr. Soames, Lord Soames came to Harare, to Salisbury, as governor. In other words, the UDI was cured at Lancaster. So the colonial authority was re-established at Lancaster, okay, by an act of parliament in the British Parliament. And likewise in GNU, the GNU was a special arrangement following a very, very nasty election, in which, by all accounts, Mugabe lost. But clearly SADC, through Mbeki in particular, Bob was restored as president. Now it might be the same now, but we cannot remove Emmerson as president. He remains president, but in a constrained fashion, in an arrangement in which his powers are curtailed, are controlled, such as Mugabe's powers were also controlled, at least on paper, in 2009. So, a similar arrangement, which makes government tentative, makes government temporary, right? Makes government less than complete, and sends a message very clear that there was a faulty election, and therefore this arrangement is temporary, pending reforms, and after which reforms there will be elections. That's really the point I'm making.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. But the GNU, because I've just had a question now in the DM that what would be the difference between the GNU and the transitional government from one of our listeners?
The GNU was an arrangement between MDC and ZANU-PF. Two parties. Okay? Second, the GNU was not well defined in terms of its reform agenda. Indeed, the reforms which were imputed in the GNU were never carried out. Partly because ZANU-PF got stronger and stronger during the GNU, and conversely, MDC went to bed, went to sleep. So after the 4 years, there was little or no progress on the reform area. Everything was disguised around the Constitution of 2013. But in terms of the reforms around the state, nothing really took place. By comparison, the transitional government we are proposing is one in which the alliance is well defined and includes not only ZANU-PF and CCC, but also civic society. I was saying the other day that if I were to make a recommendation, I would be recommending 1/3 for ZANU-PF, 1/3 for Triple C, and 1/3 for civil society, being made up of technocrats, people of standing at home and abroad, who would help to mediate between Triple C and ZANU-PF, but also constitute a very important factor in the reform process, in the political and economic reforms. And two, that the alliance would be clearly defined in terms of who gets what, in relation to what. As we, the kind of coalition that you see emerging out of Europe, for example, where there's proportional representation, they're very well defined, and there are many precedents one can follow. So to answer your question again, the difference between a GNU, which is completely just an alliance bringing people to power sharing between two parties, we're saying on this occasion we should broaden that alliance and bring in players, non-partisan players, players about whom both parties agree are useful factors, but all the same people who will represent the totality of Zimbabwean civil society at home and abroad.
Thank you so much, Sadok. Our co-host has got a question, so Mas, you can go ahead, and then Finance, go ahead. Guys, we'll open the floor so that you can come up and ask Dr. Mandaza some questions. Dr. Mandaza, whenever you are ready to leave, just give us a heads up. And I think we've gone through most of what people wanted to be made clear about where we are going and what needs to be done. So I think we can open the floor. You can take a few questions, and whenever you're ready, because you did mention that you've got another appointment.
Yes.
So whenever you're ready, you can just give us a heads up, and then you can go. But thank you so much for passing through and elaborating what's happening now. And probably a few people have understood, because I mean everybody right now we're literally like in limbo. We can see the other side pushing ahead, and then we can see the other side saying, no, don't worry about it. We're going to fix this. So thank you so much for coming through. Marcy, you can go ahead.
Thanks, Ross. I think you've summed up what I actually wanted to say, which would be opening the space to do an interrogation on what is possible in the suggestions that have been made on what can. These are possibilities of what may happen. But I think it would be prudent to be time conscious and then allow the floor maybe to inquire on what is actually possible. Because right now we're discussing what is possible without the other players being the ZANU-PF. What is possible? What can they agree to? And what may they not agree to? And then we are factoring in the outside elements that may be influential. But how influential are they in actually making these things possible? We can't ignore what the government of the day is and what they may and may not be prepared to do. And we've seen that they have other partners outside of this external world we are extracting favor from. So I suppose, time. Let's ask the audience, guys, request the mic, and let's interrogate these possibilities. Finos, I see you were first to raise your hand. You can go on, my brother.
Oh, perfect. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Revolutionary, for hosting the space, and thanks, Mercy, for co-hosting. Dr. Ibbo Mandaza, thanks for coming to the space as well. I've just joined the space. I had the last part where, you were speaking about the role that we as civic society can play. My issue comes on the backdrop of the subjugation of civil liberties and the shrinking of the space of civil liberties in Zimbabwe. What role is it not risky for us as a civic society to engage in picketing for a new election? Because I believe a lot of people, particularly those that are based in South Africa, will be closing the border, like they said. They'll be demonstrating Bainbridge border post, does that not put them at risk and other people on the Zimbabwean side as well, particularly trying to unseat an elected government according to ZANU? So I'm just wondering where our liberties are in terms of the traction that we can try and push towards a fresh election. Particularly, I'm not worried about the diplomatic route because that's the safe route. But for us as civic society, how safe are we in terms of the Zimbabwean law?
Let me be very brief on this one, and maybe in this regard, summarize my position. The question before us as Zimbabweans is as follows: do we accept that the election was a sham? And if we say it has been, which it was, in my view, do we let things go as normal, as before? Which is what ZANU-PF wants us to do. Do we? Secondly, we can insist that the election was a sham, that it was a nullity, and still do nothing, as we're doing now. We're doing nothing. Or we push along the lines of our petition, which is a petition to SADC, asking SADC to take into account and act on the basis of the report of the observer mission, and to follow through the process that is required after an election is faulty. Now, there are precedents, as I said. In 1998, Lesotho, SADC sent in a force. South African Defence Forces went into Lesotho to restore constitutional order. They were there for 8 months. In 2008, there was a similar kind of intervention through Mbeki on behalf of SADC and produced a GNU. So I'm saying that really we should not be reduced to the kind of conclusion that says, well, because we can't do anything, therefore, let's accept the election. No. We can accept, we must insist the election was a sham, even if we're unable to do anything about it, and withdraw or withhold legitimacy to Mnangagwa's government. That is the point. They can do what they want, appoint how many ministers they want, including their own relatives. The point is that is illegitimate. And that is the point I want to emphasize. I'm not here to recommend what action the civil society should take. I don't think it's proper on my part, especially since some of us have made very clear our position in terms of what should be done in the circumstances, i.e. the petition before you. The petition, in our view, is one mode of response to a very complex situation. And I hope that you're able to support that petition before we deliver the petition physically next week, as an important statement from the people of Zimbabwe that the election was a sham, that the election report by SADC and other observer missions were correct in the characterization of the election, and that therefore it cannot be business as usual, notwithstanding the attempts to do so on the part of Emmerson Mnangagwa and his government. That's my summary and my last words, if I may say. Tendai.
No, thank you so much, Dr. Mandaza. I think, I don't know if you'll be able to take one more question from finance.
That's fine. I can take two more questions. I can take two more questions.
Two more questions, that's fine.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Dr. Oh, perfect. Thanks. Dr. Mandaza, we have been accused as civil society of outsourcing our responsibility to the main opposition party, which is CCC, and we haven't done our bit. So how do we find the synergy in order to collaborate with the main opposition party as civic society? Because what is missing for me is the synergy. So I don't know what your suggestions are. Thanks.
Well, I don't want to comment on CCC, but what is significant is that CCC well, Shamisa in particular, looks immobilized at the moment. He's saying little or nothing. He's resorting to biblical verses, telling people everything will be fine, the kind of language he was using before the election. So I don't know, and they have not responded to our petition, although individual members of the CCC have signed the petition. But there's been no formal position by CCC itself. And if CCC is Shamisa, he hasn't come to the party yet in terms of the position he's taken. He said there's something going on, there's diplomatic offensive, but I see little or nothing on the ground in reality. I'm in South Africa right now. There's been little or no footprints on the part of CCC. So when you talk about synergy between civil society and CCC, I find difficulty in identifying that. And indeed, our action, our petition is really on behalf of the generality of Zimbabweans, concerned citizens, and we're proceeding with or without CCC, in my view. Although we think that CCC should have long ago have endorsed publicly this petition, but they haven't so far.
Thank you so much, Doc. I think we'll take one last question from Edson, and then you can go about your business. So Edson, welcome to the space.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for this opportunity, and Dr. Ibbo Mandaza, thank you for taking time to talk to us. You've been in this space for a very long time. You mentioned Lancaster House and what have you. Question is, at this moment, like you guys are in your space are trying to figure out a way to move forward by petitioning whoever to see if there's a way forward. Is there any chance that there can be some sit downs, for lack of a better phrase, between the opposition, the main opposition, and ZANU, for the sake of Zimbabwe to move forward? Or ZANU is such a monstrosity that within their ranks there are no people who have cool heads, who can actually see sense and say, hey, look, let's kind of map a way forward? Because it seems like every time we have a situation like this, we end up in a like post-election mode for like 20 years before the next election, and we never progress from the same position. Is this not something that could be done behind the scenes while the rhetoric keeps going on? It's politics, but there's actual talks behind the scenes that can actually progress about, because we seem to be stuck on the stupid every time when this happens. Many thanks.
Yeah, that's the import of our petition. Our petition is calling for dialogue, not only between the two parties, but between Zimbabweans across the board, and including the diaspora. Dialogue as a basis for a solution, a political solution. And I find it difficult that anybody should feel threatened or take exception to the proposal for dialogue. I find it difficult. Although significantly, there's been no one who has attacked the petition yet. So we are calling for dialogue. That is the only solution that we have among Zimbabweans themselves. And anybody who's opposed to dialogue, then there must be something wrong with them. We are saying that we need to break this cycle of rigged elections, disputed elections at least, and move forward on the basis of a new start, which begins with reforms, record reforms, which have not been denied over the last 20 years, and move forward towards a free, fair, and credible election. And I repeat, we cannot and we should not accept this new reality as one that we live with. No. And I think ZANU-PF knows that very well. And I cannot speak on behalf of ZANU-PF, but I can speak on behalf of individuals within ZANU-PF. who are in support of this, and many of them are.
I apologize on that. So because I lost my connection, let me just say this. I'm completely in support with what Dr. Ibbo Mandaza is saying. I don't think there's ever been an election in Zimbabwe. I personally don't feel nothing of any form of leadership right now. I don't see anyone as it stands who's worthy to actually lead, considering the ills that we have faced over the years. I'm sorry to say this. I don't feel nothing right now. I don't see if we are going anywhere, because we have been dealing with the very same people, some old people, old wine that you want to put in new glasses. It's not going to work. No one is willing to drink it. And it's not an issue of hatred, but it's really an issue of saying we need to deal with the right people who can lead the country moving forward. And one thing that I will say is I do not understand why is the ZANU-PF feels entitled, as far as this country is concerned. Why do they feel entitled? Why do they think like they're owning people? That thing, it really definitely flabbergasts me. I'm a firm believer that we need to understand that you're not the only person who is called to be in leadership. Give other people a chance. You've done your part. You really cannot keep holding people at ransom. You have no clue of where we are right now in 2023. You don't have no capacity to even take people forward. But all you want is remain stagnant while we're collecting, while we're eating, while we're drinking. So I agree with Dr. Ibbo Mandaza. I think if there is a call for dialogue, let it be. If we have to restart Zimbabwe, let it be. We really cannot carry on with this toxicity. We are tired. The country is not moving forward, and at some point, we need to come together and say it is enough. So, guys, I wanted you to listen to Dr. Ibbo Mandaza while he was answering the questions for what is it, where to from here? Because many people have been asking questions, where to from here? But I guess our elders are pursuing another diplomatic route of a dialogue, which is so important. Because you know what I've been saying? I said to myself, I support Nelson Chamisa, but let's just assume Nelson Chamisa had become the president of Zimbabwe. Our people were still divided, because ZANU-PF people were also saying, I remember they said that, no, if they do that, we can go, we'll go into the streets, of which we knew it was not going to work. But my point is, we need to get to a point as Zimbabweans we are able to actually relate, just be able to cohabitate as a nation, to respect each other, to also understand really what are the fundamentals of life in general. Why are we in this world? What are we doing here? What is it really about breathing and living? Because it seems like people are so swamped with the love of positions, the love of power, and then they've completely disregard the importance of actually breathing daily, the importance of sanity, and this is just my prayer to say we need to get to a point where we come together and say, regardless of our differences, you don't like me, maybe I don't like you, but how can we all live together in peace? How can we move our country forward? How can we have a Zimbabwe for all, where we need to respect the rule of law, where we need to make sure that our constitution is alive and well, where we respect each other, where there's no issue of abuse, abduct, killings. It's very sad to watch that we in 2023 we are living in 1500s. Let me not hear someone telling me that I did not go to war. But yeah, I'm actually fighting a war right now. I may not have a gun, but trust me, I'm fighting a war daily. You can see we are stuck. We want a way out. We want a solution. But I'm glad he's really saying one thing or the other of what we're really wishing could happen among our people. We are fed. I'm fed up. I'm fed up. I'm really fed up. And I don't know why people are just keeping on holding on. Hey, Naividwe, it's okay kwenda kumba kunotamba nevazukuru. It's okay to retire. It's okay. And do some of the things that you like. Munema farms, and then munorima, munogara kuma farms zuko. Never na sekuru chiko ne mimi. But I love the fact that we need to get to a point where we can have a conversation as a community, as a society, and say we need a Zimbabwe where people are free. We must have freedom of speech. Speaking where we can, raise questions where we can. Even when people are caught looting resources, they must be held accountable. Having a society that is functioning, not a dysfunctional nation. I guess we are all crying for one thing or the other. And it's interesting that Dr. Ibbo Mandaza is really freely answering the questions, and I just want to say thank you to him. We're kind of having an idea, but let me tell you why Nelson Chamisa is quiet. I think people don't realize that a lot of things are happening at once. And sometimes, for you to make a sound decision, you need to withdraw from everyone's energy, everyone's advice. And I'm sure they're not just quiet. I know a lot is happening in the background, but because we don't really know. But people are just tired. They are talking. There are talks in the background to say, how can we move forward? So people should not say Nelson Chamisa is sitting and doing nothing. He's definitely doing something. He's not just sitting. He's definitely doing something. Yeah, I hope you guys just heard what Doctor said, and I don't know what you guys think. Just comment in the comment section. Let me hear your thoughts. But we are all as Zimbabweans tired. We really want to move forward. This country has to move forward. At some point, we need to move forward. It's getting tiring. You know, and stuck day in, day out, hating each other day in, day out. We are in pain. I mean, I've been like watching the videos of how people used to be celebrating daily when we were towards elections, and just see the hope that people were actually anticipating. They were literally anticipating a better Zimbabwe. But here we are today. We're still saying the same old thing, same old thing. We understand that there's going to be freedom. Freedom is coming. But the bottom line is, are people hurting? Are people broken? Are people stuck? And they need a way forward. But by the will of God, we're definitely going to come out of the situation. I tell you, God is faithful. He's able to do exceedingly abundantly above and beyond. As we're speaking right now, something is happening. I don't feel it in my spirit that we have got leadership. I just feel like there are people that are just kind of wasting our time. Again, let's look at the trends quickly. Trending. Definitely God is in it. It's trending. Please, let me tell you, drop your location. We need to share each other some love. Let's help one another. Let's share no. There's no to GNU. Yeah. GNU is a no. But guess what he is suggesting is a dialogue across a diaspora. He's also talking about civil society. He's talking about CCC, every Zimbabwean, which means across the board. Maybe he's saying so we can have a dialogue, maybe, and then he maybe keeping, according to his submissions, keeping Mr. Mnangagwa for 2 years as a president, but shrink some of his responsibilities in terms of powers that he carries, because he seems to be having too much power over Zimbabwe. He does as he pleases. So there must be conditions that his powers must be limited to just becoming the president, an interim president, while we prepare for another election in 2 years. Those are his submissions. But which I think if we can get to that point, I would suggest that it's a good idea. We all know that now we are working towards a free and fair election where there's no attacking anybody, hitting anyone. Since ye had initially, according to Dr. Ibbo Mandaza, approached Nelson Chamisa requesting that we would postpone elections for 2 years and then he will hand over power. I guess they're trying kind of in a way giving him that opportunity, but still trying to shrink, especially powers. Too much powers for a president. Too much powers for a president, I think, in Zimbabwe. You know, powers must go back to the people, and a leader should know that they are servants. They don't own the people, because it stands. Most of the people in the country, they feel like they're owning us, whereas they do not own us. So just remind you, don't forget about connecting to Dr. Ibbo Mandaza and his teaching. Dialogue, it can be, I feel like dialogue can be a good idea, because guys, like I said to you, we need to learn to communicate as one, even if we disagree, but there must be you know, that understanding. Any community or home or whatever relationship where communication is breakdown, it will never work, because there's always going to be speculations. Most of the times we speculate. We rarely know what's going on in the country, because the communication hotlines are not working. So at some point we need to really come together and say, how can we fix our country? How can we get to be one family without some people feel like they're better than the other, but rather just all of us where we're equal, you know, and just a thriving community, really, a community that accommodates everyone, and a community that exalt talents and gifts and experience, rather than nepotism or, you know, relationship. We need to start working on understanding that when it comes to a person who should be trusted with a portfolio, they must be qualified to serve in that area, qualified to serve with ethics, integrity, and also respect for humankind. So I guess that's what we're all crying for. Let's keep praying, and we trust God that God will definitely going to come through and come for all of us. And Linda Masarira, please, Linda Masarira, stop that. Linda is keep on attacking Nelson Chamisa. First of all, you're also a politician. I just wish you can start playing your part than to blame other people. You are also a politician. We expect you to stand and also work towards the peace and the love of our country, Zimbabwe. Drop your location, please. Let's send you some shout out and some love because you deserve it. Yo, you deserve to be loved. So this is where we are, guys. Very interesting. Mr. Mnangagwa is at United Nations, and I did listen to his speech at all. But I still think that a man that I respected so much is Kagame. Kagame he's running this coming year. Okay, respect from me. And two 25-year-olds, like I reported this in the afternoon, for Triple C also, one is a mayor, the other one is a councillor. And I was saying to young people, look, what other young people are doing. Let's learn to be inspired where we're applicable. We don't want young people that are just celebrating news of wrong. It's about time that you guys take positions and begin to do the work that you need to do. So yeah, I'm so excited, guys. I'm so excited. We can't wait to see what God has in us. But in a nutshell, Zimbabweans are rejecting the legitimacy of Mr. Mnangagwa. That's what Ibbo Mandaza said, that we must never, ever wake up one morning and think there was an election. There was never an election. But also, do not forget that there is the issue of European Union pulling out the funds, 100% withdrawing from assisting Zimbabwe Electoral Commission with elections, but it's still on hold because, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's just the blessing of the Lord, which which just to be glorified. To God be all the glory all the time. So European Union is withdrawing from assisting ZEC after the Shem election. They were like, nope. They were given 4.5 million euros. I don't know. You guys can check how much it is. 4.5 million euros. I'm desperate to know how much is 4.5 million euros in rands. Very desperate to know. Or in dollars. I am so desperate. Like, I'm a firm believer that I need to have my facts right. So that is good. How much? 4.5 million. Oh my God. You can't drink that one. 4.5 million euros in rands, right? And rands. Let's see how much it is, because I know euros are definitely far stronger than yeah. Do you know how much it is? 4.5 million euros is 90,233,820 rand in 90 million. So ZEC was given 90 million to actually run this past election. So we should all ask, this is in rands. We don't even know in US. Maybe I should have changed it to US dollars. What's going to be better into US dollars? Into US dollars, it was oh my God, that was $4,830,891.94. So in a nutshell, they were given 4.8 million to run this past election. Now the question you all need to ask yourself, was that a 4.8 million US dollars election that you just witnessed? Definitely not right here. So a lot of answers, a lot of questions that needs answers. I'm going to be honest, a lot of questions that needs answers, and I hope they understand. So God is in it, and people are so worried about Nelson Chamisa. I understand him so well. I understand. There's sometimes, and let me just tell you, I've got people that are waiting for me to give them answers, but because I have to make sure whatever answer I'm giving them is correct, I'm just quiet. And they're getting angry and frustrated. They want me to say something, and I'm not saying anything because I know that it's not the right time for me to speak, and I guess that's the way it is. People like him, they know what they're dealing with, and they're trying to inquire from the right source. So we need to be patient a bit. Let's give him a bit of time to make sure that he does what he has to do. Let's give him time, you know. Give Nelson Chamisa time. Be patient with him. You come back with the feedback soon. So relax, guys. Relax. It's very interesting. Guys, there's actually Soga coming up here, and Mabaza, God is looking at you with that rubbish. I don't know who is Mabaza. Oh, forgive me, please. I don't even know who that is. Unfortunately, I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on. You know. Dominic Jangos Mobda and things are going to be okay, guys. I just want to read your comments while I actually answer, you know, to an extent where I can be able to answer. I just want you to drop your location. Just drop your questions. Let me just hear what are you guys saying, because oh God. Okay, I just saw something that's very disturbing, but anyway, let me not worry much. And I told about what's going on. I told you about the two girls literally that won for Triple C. One is a mayoress and the other one, she's a councillor. Both are 25-year-olds. Absolutely incredible, absolutely inspiring. And I want to say to young people, please make sure that you look at inspiration, because inspiration is everywhere. Look around you. You're actually going to see that a lot is happening in the world, and they expect you to be doing something. Do you understand me? So do what's right for you and for you alone. So guys, it has been really a great time. And for those that came in late, I'm asking you to actually revisit this video from the beginning so that you can understand what Dr. Ibbo Mandaza was saying. We don't want to leave you guys behind. Let's work together. And by the way, I'm going to say my condolences to one of the ladies. Her name is Patricia Chibaya, one of the champion lady from Chinoy. She passed away. She went to heaven. And may her soul rest in eternal peace. Oh man, I don't know what happened to her. She's beautiful. She's too young, but God is good. She's home with the Father. I think that's all that matters, because we all one day going to be home with the Father. You and me, actually, we're going to be meeting again in heaven. So that's why we should love each other. Rumbi Mabasa, can you hear what he's talking at our news? You will even think to break your TV with this nonsense. Who's Mabasa? Rumbi Mabasa. Okay. I'm going to check. Hi Jaden, how you doing? Back again, Liverpool never disappoint. There's light at the end of the tunnel. 150%. Jaden, it's good to see you, man. It's good to see you. I agree with you. There's definitely light at the end of the tunnel, and we are very close. I mean, you know what we aspiring, what we desire in Zimbabwe is really to see a balanced society. But because we want a balanced society, it's going to take a bit of time. We don't want a microwave way of resolving our issues, because it's not going to last. If we truly want to change Zimbabwe for the best, it's going to require you and me to be slightly patient while we find the right ways to resolve our issues. I really want a Zimbabwe that works, guys. I'm so tired of a Zimbabwe that is not balanced. I want you guys to understand that. Oh my God, I don't know. I'm just seeing something here where there's a big thing written rejected. Mr. Ibbo Mnangagwa is there, and there's this red tape on him said rejected. So, like I said, Mr. Ibbo Mandaza said, we must never accept his legitimacy, because he's not. And I agree. And like I said, I love him, but I don't think I would ever wake up in the morning and say that he was actually elected, because it was never an election in Zimbabwe. Never. It was simply jokes. What happened in Zimbabwe was nothing but a joke. That's all I'm going to say. So Mr. Mandaza is inviting you, Ibbo Mandaza is inviting you to a scheduled Zoom meeting. The 2020 elections condemned. What should SADC, the AU, and the international community do? It's going to be there on the 21st of September. That is tomorrow, guys. Please make note of this. It's going to be on a Zoom meeting. I'm going to share this on my YouTube channel. So I'm going to make sure that I drop it in the community section, so you guys can go in there and get all the details. Please make sure that you attend this meeting. It's on a Zoom meeting from 5:30 tomorrow p.m. from Harare. So definitely, I don't know, for those that are also in the West, in Europe, so you can also still consider timelines. But I think it's a great thing. So there's going to be a meeting definitely tomorrow. Dr. Ibbo Mandaza kind of outline what we should do moving forward. Hi, Rombi, you look so beautiful, my girl. Thank you, Mama. May the Lord bless you. So please, I need to attend the meeting. We don't want, no one should be left behind. We must all just move with the speed of light. And, you know, that's all I can say. We must all move with the speed of light. Tell him we don't want that dialogue. What do you want, Lene? Chamisa should not give ZANU-PF a lifetime. Okay, what do you want? Please tell me, what is your wish? What's your wish, my sister? Because, so you know what, so this is actually Trangra. It says, today I visited Clifford Primary School. The learning conditions are disheartening. There's no furniture and there's no shortage of classrooms. No, there is a shortage of classrooms. The education system is in a dire state. I'll engage all the stakeholders to find a lasting solution to the education crisis. Anyway, we all know that there is a crisis in Zimbabwe. Our education systems have collapsed. We are just so, like, what we need to do is to resolve our politics. Our politics have ruined Zimbabwe. For those that had paid money to actually go to Benaboy, and I'm not a concert person. I do not like. As a matter of fact, I have my own music that I truly like, so I'm not really those kind of people. So I know that the concert has been cancelled, the one in Johannesburg, because his tickets were very expensive, so people could not afford. So that's another training story. I'm not a Benaboy thing. Like those are not the type of music that I listen to. I am a gospel person. I also love romantic music, you know, but Benaboy is not really my thing. I'm not a hip-hop kind of person. I don't feel nothing about hip-hop. So, guys, it has been a great evening just chatting with you. I haven't had dinner, actually. Yeah, we want triple C without a mixture of ZANU-PF. No. So what they are saying, guys, they don't really mean to the way that you guys think. If they have to have a dialogue, what it actually means is we are going to have the right people doing work, notwithstanding your political affiliation, because in ZANU-PF, there are people that are also fed up with Mnangagwa's dynasty. Just know that. Qualified people who were never given a chance, but they have what it takes. So remember when Nelson Chamisa came into, when he started his campaigning, he mentioned that he was going to have an inclusive government, which means he was going to also pull some people from ZANU-PF from all over the place, as long as the people were qualified to do the job, which means that that's exactly where we are heading now. Mr. Ibbo Mandaza is saying exactly the same thing, that we need to pursue the same route. It will help all of us to move forward. We do not want to keep on, keep on watering polarization. We need to come to a point where we understand that we are one. And it's not a GNU. Don't confuse a GNU and a dialogue. They're not the same. A GNU is only, okay, a GNU was actually two parties that came together and say we want to form a GNU. That was MDC at the time and ZANU-PF. But right now, people are saying we do not want a GNU, but we want a dialogue, which means we want to restart the country. No GNU. It's not a GNU. I also don't support GNU. I do not want to hear about a GNU. It will not work. But one thing that I would say should happen is literally bring everyone together and let's have a conversation and really build the Zimbabwe that we want for everyone. I think that I support. That I'm in support of 150%. So yeah, guys, please, you're more than welcome to keep on commenting while we have a conversation, because I will see you definitely tomorrow morning. I love you guys and stick around. I'll see you later on. Yeah, so it has been a great evening, just hang out with you guys. You have heard Dr. Ibbo Mandaza. He's going to be on also tomorrow at exactly 5:30. I'm going to share all the details on my community space. So see you guys in my next later on. I love you so much, and make sure to share some love. Very important. All prisoners must be out 100%. Very important, guys. I love you and God bless you all. Sleep tight. And for those that are actually starting their day, may God bless you and have a great day further. Bye for now.